The reason you're terrified of marriage isn't because of the legal system or the fear of losing half your stuff. It's because deep down, you know that the second you say those vows, the version of you that gets to be a lazy, self-indulgent man-child has to die. You've been told for decades that men only get married because they want a legacy or a biological replacement, but that's a lie fed to you by people who want you weak and isolated. The truth is much more brutal. You are getting married because without it, you are a chaotic mess of potential with absolutely no direction. Gaius Musonius Rufus tried to tell you 2,000 years ago that marriage is the only thing that saves a man from his own animal instincts, and nobody listened. You aren't avoiding a trap. You're avoiding the only mirror that will ever show you who you actually are. The reproductive myth is for amateur philosophers. I am sick of hearing these alpha gurus talk about marriage like it's just a legal contract for a breeding program. If men only got married to reproduce, we would have gone extinct. You don't need a wife to have a kid. Any moron with a heartbeat can do that. Musonius Rufus, a man who actually had a brain, argued that marriage is the foundation of the home and the whole of life. It's not about the biological byproduct. It's about the fact that a man alone is a disaster waiting to happen. You think you're independent, but you're just unobserved. And an unobserved man is a man who stops showering, stops dreaming, and starts decaying into a pile of resentment and stale habits. Let's break this down. 1. The mirror you are terrified to face. When you are single, you are the hero of your own delusional story. You think you're great because no one is there to tell you that you're actually a lazy, selfish jerk who leaves dirty dishes in the sink for 3 days. Marriage is the only place where you cannot hide from your own garbage. Musonius Rufus pointed out that marriage is a partnership of mutual care. That means someone is there to call you out on your nonsense. Without a wife, you have no accountability. You become the king of a kingdom made of dust and old pizza boxes. You get married because you need a witness to your life who won't let you settle for being a loser. 2. The civilizing mission for the savage soul. Let's be honest. A bachelor is a half-wild creature. You eat over the sink. You wear the same shirt for a week. You have no reason to be better because there is no one to be better for. Rufus argued that marriage is what stitches a society together. It turns a wandering nomad into a builder. You get married to anchor your soul to something real. It is not about the ball and chain. It is about the anchor that keeps you from drifting into the abyss of total irrelevance. A man with no anchor isn't free. He's lost at sea. 3. The death of the main character syndrome. Most of you are suffering from a chronic case of thinking the world revolves around your comfort and your Netflix queue. You get married to kill that version of yourself. Rufus taught that marriage is the ultimate exercise in justice. It is the practice of putting another human being's needs on the same level as your own. If you cannot do that, you aren't a man. You're just a toddler with a bank account and a beard. Men get married because they realize that living for yourself is a boring, hollow, and ultimately suicidal way to exist. 4. The intellectual synergy you can't find in a bar. Rufus was one of the few ancients who insisted that women were just as capable of philosophy and virtue as men. He didn't see a wife as a servant or a broodmare. He saw her as a co-pilot. You get married because you need a second brain. You need someone whose perspective isn't warped by your own ego. A man and a wife are like two hands working together to wash each other. 5. The only cure for modern nihilism. You may ask why so many men feel like life is pointless today. Because they have nothing to protect. They have nothing to sacrifice for. Marriage gives you a reason to fight that isn't just about your own survival. Musonius Rufus understood that a man with a wife is a man with a purpose. He is no longer just a consumer. He is a guardian. If you are just living for your own pleasure, you will eventually realize that pleasure is a very small, boring room to live in. 6. The discipline of the domestic life. Everyone thinks discipline is about hitting the gym and waking up at 4 in the morning. That's easy. The real discipline is staying calm when your partner is stressed. The real discipline is staying committed when things aren't fun anymore. Rufus believed that the household was the first school of virtue. Before you can be a good leader or a good citizen, you have to be a good husband. If you can't manage a relationship with one person who actually loves you, what makes you think you can handle the complexities of the world? You're playing on easy mode and wondering why you aren't leveling up. 7. The rejection of the lonely consumer. The system wants you single. Lonely people are easier to sell things to. They spend more money trying to fill the hole in their hearts with toys, subscriptions, and temporary distractions. A married man is dangerous to the system because he doesn't need the system to feel whole. He has his tribe. He has his partner. Musonius Rufus told us the secret, and we ignored it because it sounded like work. But guess what? Everything worth doing is work. If you want a life that actually tastes like something, you have to be willing to cook. Now, let me tell you why the red pill got it dead wrong. Some of you are so worried about your assets that you've forgotten to build a soul. Rufus lived under emperors who could take your head off for looking at them wrong, and he still said marriage was the highest calling. He didn't care about your bank account. He cared about your character. You've been brainwashed into thinking that marriage is a loss. Rufus says it is the only way to win. It is the only way to transition from a guy who exists to a man who matters. The reproductive aspect is just the fruit. The tree is the relationship itself. If you're just looking for a way to have kids without the commitment, you're looking for a shortcut to a destination you don't even understand. If you are feeling defensive right now, it is because you know I am right. You are using freedom as a synonym for fear. You are afraid that you won't be enough for someone. You are afraid that you will have to change. Sorry to break it to you, but you need to change. The version of you that exists right now isn't the final form. It is the rough draft. Marriage is the editor that cuts out the boring, selfish parts of your story and makes it worth reading. Musonius Rufus was exiled. He was persecuted. He knew what real hardship looked like. And yet, he spent his time writing about why men need wives. He knew that a man without a home is just a ghost haunting his own life. Stop being a ghost. Stop listening to the voices that tell you to stay isolated. They want you lonely. They want you weak. A married man is a man with a foundation. He is a man who cannot be easily swayed by the winds of culture because he has something more important at home. Musonius Rufus taught that marriage is natural. Rejection of it is a rejection of your own humanity. You can keep your freedom. You can keep your quiet apartment and your total lack of responsibility. But when the lights go out and you're lying there wondering why you feel like you've been running a race that doesn't have a finish line, remember this. You were offered a path to greatness, and you traded it for the right to be unbothered. There is nothing more pathetic than an unbothered man. Get married because it is the hardest thing you will ever do. Get married because it will break you and rebuild you into something better. Of course, it is perfectly valid to choose a life of solitude if that path is driven by a genuine pursuit of higher purpose or personal mission. However, you must be brutally honest with yourself. Are you rejecting marriage because you are genuinely fulfilled alone, or are you just terrified of the accountability and growth that comes with letting someone else in? The question is yours to ask and answer. The comment of the day goes to the Matrix of the Matrix, and it reads, "This truly was savage." Well, that's how it works around here.